Okay. Cool. I think we'll get going, shall we? Right, so let's record.
Okay, welcome everybody.
Recording in progress.
So welcome everybody. It's great to see you here. We're going to discuss investing in Montenegro and in particular tutor residences, which is in Risan, of which I personally visited in March this year to check the location and also the build quality. It's destined to be the best, one of the leading sustainable resorts in the area. We're representing 6 penthouses ranging between 2,500,000 to 3,700 million. So these are branded and they're branded between Movenpick and Accor. All with unique design and fully furnished, so ready to go. They also have their own specialised rental pool, so all very specific. What's unique about these penthouses when you look across the sales portfolio of Montenegro is that 5 out of these 6 penthouses have pools, private pools with the roof gardens and 1 jacuzzi. The other added value to this specific resort is the beach, which as you can see is directly in front, and the marina, which will be constructed next year. So all of these add specific value to this resort. There will be concierge, and there is developing at least sort of 90 direct routes now to Montenegro. So it's opening up as a 5-star tourist destination, and those discussions are continuing, including now Israel. Super yachts are becoming more and more discussed in the area. You have to be on the water in Montenegro. You cannot go to Montenegro and not be on the water. It is astoundingly beautiful and it's the best way to travel. But now their focus on super yachts is becoming more prominent with the taking away the VAT. There are certain conditions that people have to register in terms of the foreign yachts, but that means they may have to stay in various areas for 72 hours. The reason people are excited about this is because it opens up it being perceived as a super yacht destination and a place to stop off en route. There is a payment plan now in place over 4 years with a 20% deposit so that you can start earning as soon as you purchase, since this will all open in July 2025, so no waiting. Currently, market research and analysis says that between 2023 and 2024, there was a rise in property prices by 14%. And lastly, before I wasn't expecting was the emotional response to the properties, because when you see the renders, they're very clean, the design is phenomenal, but it's not until you stand there that you realise with the high ceilings and the open windows that you are actually in the most extraordinary landscape of the bay, of the mountains, and it's actually really sheltered. So you don't feel like you're in a busy resort, and the immersement within the landscape is actually what sells this particular penthouses. So what we
I don't know how much do you know about Montenegro, and have you done any research so far? But Montenegro is a very small country. We have a very small population of around 650,000 people, and basically the country is in the Mediterranean climate area. It's very mountainous. We have a lot of hills, a lot of mountains, but also a beautiful coastline with very nice beaches, and the Kotor Bay in which this project is located is basically one of the most beautiful places in the country. Here people speak Montenegrin, Serbian, Croatian, and Bosnian language, but basically that's the different dialect of the same language, but a lot of people speak English as well, so you don't have to worry about learning the local language. Everybody will probably understand you. And what is also important to mention is that Montenegro has two international airports in the country. One is in Podgorica, the capital city. The other is in Tivat, which is pretty close to Risan and Kotor and the project. And we have also two other airports which are very close to the borders of Montenegro. For example, Dubrovnik Airport is around 30 kilometers from the border and around 50 kilometers from Risan and from the project. And Tirana Airport is around maybe 2-3 hours from the border. So basically, we have four large international airports that can actually operate as for people who come to visit Montenegro and who maybe will come to visit your properties or stay in them. And the reason why people choose Montenegro, the reasons why people choose Montenegro are very different. And as I said, so far we encountered in many cases of why people want to move to Montenegro, or why people want to start a business in Montenegro, or why people want to invest here. So basically, clients and other people have either economic or personal reasons to come here. Sometimes those reasons intertwine, sometimes not. But basically, when it comes to economic reasons, property markets and investments are actually maybe one of the main reasons why people choose our destination, because Montenegro has been a pretty hot property market ever since maybe 2004 or 2005. So even before we regained our independence. And since then we have a very steady flow of foreign direct investment, especially in real estate and in properties. There are many projects that have been developed so far. And that's why the big companies and brands such as Molenbeek have actually recognized Montenegro as a destination worth having in their portfolio, and as a destination that is worth having in branded residence area. Tax advantages are also one of the reasons why people come here, because Montenegro is not a zero tax country. We are far from it. But compared to some countries, especially some countries in the European Union, our tax system is very favorable, especially when it comes to corporate profit and dividend tax, but also when it comes to property tax. But we will have that part separately during the presentation, so you will know more about that a bit later. Also, for people who come to live here, or for people who need a second residency or a third residency or a plan B, easy and cheap residency is also one of the reasons why people come here, because Montenegro is one of the rare countries that offers a possibility to have a residence permit without actually spending time in the country, and also is one of the residence permits with lowest expense. Basically, for some 3,800 euros per year, you can keep your residency and have a plan B, have a country in which you have the official residency. And our position, in which we are a candidate for the European Union membership, but we are still not in the European Union, is also one of the let's say reasons that people come here, because we are close to Europe, but we don't have such big bureaucracy, so many rules as European Union. So people from Europe see Montenegro as, let's say, a destination of more easygoing lifestyle and something that not so many rules, let's say, as European Union. And people from other continents see Montenegro as a connection to Europe, which basically we will be in the EU in a couple of years. But at this moment, they just see it as they see us as a step towards towards Europe. So basically, that is, let's say, a unique position. And Montenegro has a fairly low living cost compared to some other countries and other large cities, especially, I don't know, London, New York, and cities like that, or countries like that. Montenegro has, let's say, a fairly lower living cost. The country has easygoing lifestyle. You will see that, I think Susan saw that when she visited Montenegro, and you will be able also to see that if you visit here, people like to spend a lot of time in cafes and do business in cafes, and the general rhythm of life is not so fast. So basically, it's easy to get accustomed to, and some people like that. And of course, Montenegro is a very safe destination. That is something that, let's say, we are proud of. It's not like we are a crime-free country, but in general, very safe. And of course, our beautiful coast is one of the reasons why people want to move here, because many foreigners, many people who buy properties actually buy them in the coastal region because they want access to beaches, and also it's the best investment because in any aspect it's much easier to rent that either via booking or Airbnb or for a long-term rent. If you have a property in the coastal region, you can count that you will rent it and you will get higher prices than maybe in Podgorica and in other cities that are inland. Montenegro as a business destination is, let's say, something that is very attractive to people, although as I tell to every client, we are not, of course, a perfect destination, but we have some advantages that can be used and that can be useful for many different reasons. One important thing is that Montenegro has freehold property ownership. So once you own a property as a foreigner or as a company or as a person, doesn't matter, you hold it indefinitely. There is no, let's say, limitation to that. And we have a law that says that foreign investors are treated as locals. So basically, even if you are a foreigner, when it comes to court disputes, when it comes to your rights about your investment, about your money, about your property, you have all the same rights as citizens of Montenegro. And there are no limitations for foreigners to own any properties or companies. There is a small limitation for large agricultural land, but that can also be bypassed through LLC ownership. So basically, there are no limitations. And as I already said, we have a pretty favorable tax system that I will tell you a bit more about it in the next slides. And also, Montenegro is known that it's very easy to register an LLC here. Basically, you need only €1 of founding capital, and you can register it in up to 10 days. And that company can sometimes be, or not sometimes, but often people use it for residency purposes. So basically, it's very easy. The procedures are simple. The procedures also for residence permits are very simple. So for that part, Montenegro is pretty straightforward and offers that simplicity. The banks may be a bit more complicated than other, let's say, bureaucratic procedures, but also that is something that is developing, and basically there are very low capital flow barriers. And as you can see, the country offers very low company ownership cost. So basically, from some €195 per month, you can own a company and keep it active. What is important to note is that in Montenegro you cannot shelf a company. It's either active or it doesn't exist. So basically, if you own a company, you will always have some, at least small monthly cost, because the company needs to have at least one employee. Now, before going to this tax system and the options for property purchase, what I just need to say is a small disclaimer is that this is not at this moment tax or legal or investment advice. This is just an overview of the propositions and the law in the tax system of Montenegro. But of course, for any specific case, we would need to do a study and give, let's say, an advice that is in paper. So Montenegro tax system that has, of course, corporate and personal taxes, and the corporate profit tax is unfortunately progressive, but still, as I said, not so high. So basically, it can be from 9 to 15%, depending on how big is the profit of the company. And of course, there are some, if somebody owns a company that is only for residency purposes, or for small business, there are some personal expenses that can be attributed to the company, so that the tax basis is lower. VAT is 0 or 21%, and if your company is reinvesting the profit, then you don't pay any dividend tax. And when it comes to personal taxes, as you can see, personal income tax is 15%, and this personal income includes property rent income, which is or can be important if you own a property in Montenegro. But what is important to know that this 15% is not paid on the whole income, but that income has a deduction of up to 30% for expenses. So after you deduct the expenses from the personal income, then you pay the 15% tax. The dividend and capital gains tax is up to 15%, and it depends on your home country. And does Montenegro have a double tax agreement with that country? Because if it does, then you may pay less dividend or less dividend or capital gains tax here in our country. And the real estate property tax is 0.1 to 1.5% of the property value, depending on the property type, depending on the area in which the property is, depending how old is the property. So there is a whole scale, and it can be a bit, it's not complicated, but it's not, let's say, it's not as straightforward as it may should be, but it's not complicated to calculate that. And we will have in the next slide, in one of the next slides, the case for the actual project that we are talking about in this presentation. The real estate transfer tax is 3 to 5.7%, depending on the property value. That is the price of the transaction. But for newly built properties, such as this project, then you don't pay this transfer tax. And the inheritance tax for the first of kin is 0%, while for others is 3%. Also, what I can mention here is that Montenegro offers the possibility of becoming a tax resident of our country, and for that you need to spend at least 6 months in the country with a residence permit, and then you would pay taxes only to Montenegro. So if that is something that is, let's say, comparable and has a let's say lower tax than your country, then maybe it's an interesting option. Now, regarding the purchase options for a property, basically in this case for the non-olympic residencies, basically you can buy a property in Montenegro as a person or through an LLC. That LLC can be a Montenegrin LLC or it can be a foreign LLC. It doesn't matter. You don't have limitations there. In both options, as I said before, you have freehold ownership. So once you have that property, it's yours indefinitely until you want to sell it. Now, if you buy a a property as a person, it can be tax effective and have a good cash flow for yourself, because you only pay when it comes to taxes, you will pay the personal income tax once a year, and you can get that rental income every month or every 2 months, doesn't matter. So basically, it can be very tax effective, and you can have a nice cash flow there. However, when it comes to residences like this, which you need to rent out during the bigger periods of the year, you have limited residence permit options, because if you opt for a residence permit based on property ownership, you need to spend at least 9 months here in Montenegro, so that option can be limited. And in general, if you buy a property as a person, you have a lower yearly cost, because you don't have an expense for the LLC upkeep, for the salary, for the accountant, etc., etc. However, if you buy a property through LLC, as I said, you still have, of course, freehold ownership, but it can be tax effective if you plan to reinvest your income from your rental income. If you plan to reinvest it, then maybe it is tax effective to put it in an LLC and invest it further. However, you have higher yearly cost, because you have the upkeep of the LLC that I mentioned, and one of the, let's say, biggest advantages of doing this through an LLC is that you have the residency option without actually living in the country, and without showing any, let's say, specific minimal income that is needed when you have a residence permit based on property ownership. So basically, it's not a big difference, but it can be a difference depending on your goals, depending on what you plan to achieve in Montenegro. Is it just to own the company, is it just to get rental income, or is it just or you want to also use it for residency purposes? And regarding the real estate related taxes, so this is, I suppose, one of the most interesting parts for you, because this slide is actually, let's say, for the case of buying the property in this project. So basically, since it's going to be a newly built property, you don't pay any property transfer tax in this case, and the VAT is included in the price that the project is going to have. So the price you see is the price you will be paying, and you will not be paying any additional property transfer tax in this case. And if you decide, I don't know, in a year or 2 years, whatever, to resell that property, then in that case, the property transfer tax will be paid by the buyer, because here in Montenegro, it's practically 99% of cases paid by the buyer. Now, when you rent the property, as I said before, if you own it as a person, your rental income tax is going to be 15%, which is basically counted as a personal income. And of course, you first deduct the regular maintenance costs for the property, and then on that difference, you pay the 15% tax. And if you own the property as a company, then in that case, the rental income goes in the books as the company income, and you pay profit tax on whatever is the profit of the company. So if the company has any other activities, if it has any other big expenses, maybe your tax base can be much lower, and maybe you will pay less tax. And in the case where you own the property as a company, you can count the depreciation cost at 2.5% per year of the property value. So this is also very important in the overall tax structure and in the overall income structure of the company and of your tax plan. And the yearly property tax in Kotor and Brisbane, and in this particular location where the project is. So basically, the property tax in Kotor is 0.8% of the property value per year. This is the same, either you own it as a company or as a person, it doesn't matter. The rate is the same. However, the property value formula is determined by the current policy of the municipality of Kotor as the property market value times 1.1 location coefficient, because it's located in Brisbane and it's located on the first line of the sea. So basically, that's why the market value is first corrected to 1.1, and then on that value you pay 0.8% of the property tax. And for the let's say for the end of the presentation, residency options in Montenegro. Basically, Montenegrin residence, as I said, is fairly uncomplicated and pretty cheap. It has a very low cost usually, so you are eligible for residency in Montenegro if you own a property, if you own a company, that is, if you own a company and employ yourself as the CEO. And it's also possible to have a family reunification residence permit for somebody who already has a residence for property or company ownership. In that case, your dependents, those are spouse and children up to 18 years old, can have also a residence permit in Montenegro based on that. And Montenegro offers a pretty long path to citizenship through residence permits. So we are talking about at least 10 years. So for a lot of people, it's long, but still it's important to mention because it is still a possibility. And some key points of Montenegrin residency is that each residence permit is valid for 12 months, that is 1 year, and you need to renew it every year. There is no minimal investment requirement if you want, for example, to have a residence permit based on property ownership or company, doesn't matter. You don't have any minimal investment requirement, like you need to invest a certain amount of money. This country doesn't require that. There is also a low income requirement. For example, if you go for a residence permit based on property ownership, you need to show that you have around 4,000 euros in a bank account in Montenegro, which is not, let's say, a high amount for 1 year. And as I mentioned a couple of times, there is a possibility through company or ownership and being the CEO of the company to have a residence permit without actually living in the country. So basically you can come once a year, apply for extension. We or some other consultant helps you prepare the papers and the application, and that's it. And there is this, as I said, low yearly residency costs that is around 3,800 euros. Basically, for example, if you have a company that doesn't do anything, that just has one employee, has an address, has an accountant, and you pay some salary taxes and contributions. Basically, it's a total of around 3,800 euros per year to keep it going and to pay for the application and the documents, etc., etc. So that can be, let's say, an important part of the structure and of the, let's say, decision to move to Montenegro and buy a property. So basically that's it, and thank you very much for the time. Now I can take questions if somebody has any.
That's great. Thank you very much, Marco. I really appreciate you spending the time to run through that with us. We had a question from Hitchin a bit earlier on in the presentation. He was asking about whether it would be a positive impact if and when they join the EU.
Well, basically, sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, do you think is it perceived as having a positive impact if and when you will join the EU?
Well, let's say it depends. That is, there is going to be a positive impact, definitely, but there might be also some negative impact. That means that when we join the EU, because I'm not saying if, because probably most likely we are joining. So that's why I'm saying when. So when that happens, the upside is going to be that a lot of more people are going to start coming to Montenegro. I know that, of course, we are recognized in Europe, but still some people are still like, okay, Montenegro is still not in the EU, maybe we should wait with our investment. Also, far markets such as US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand are also, let's say, their decision to invest here also depends a lot of the membership of Montenegro in the EU, because they look at it, if we are in the EU, then we are a safe country. Safe not only for physical safety, but also for their capital. So those are going to be the let's say, positive impacts. Also, the capital flow is going to be even more easy, and Montenegro will be able to, let's say, pull additional funds from the EU for roads, for infrastructure, which is, of course, very important to always upgrade it, because Montenegro now has more people than before, and Montenegro also receives. We have, as I said, 650,000 people, but we have over 2.5 million tourists per year. So that's 4 times more than the number of inhabitants. So investing in infrastructure is very important. So those are the positive impacts. The possible negative impact can be higher taxes, more bureaucracy, and by more bureaucracy I mean also maybe some, let's say, different requirements for the residence permits or for the capital flow and stuff like that. So basically, big upside, but also a possible downside. But of course, it depends. We are still a small country. Maybe that change in bureaucracy and in taxes will not be as high as in some other countries which needed more money when they entered the EU.
Cool. AC also asked, at this time, obviously you're not currently fully integrated with the EU, but does Montenegro residency allow you to work within the EU?
No. Basically, Montenegro residency does not allow you automatic access to Schengen zone, because we are still not in the EU. It's fairly easier to apply for it because you are in Montenegro, and Montenegro has embassies of practically every country from EU. So in that term, it may be easier to apply, but there is no automatic access to Schengen zone.
Do you think though, if you applied for residency now and you went through the residency path, when you do enter the EU, do you think it'll be a lot more straightforward to get that residency if you're outside the EU at the moment? Or work within the EU?
You mean when, if you have Montenegrin residency, when Montenegro enters the EU?
Yeah, would you be able to then use that residency to work in the EU?
Basically by the propositions of the EU, yes. But it is let's say, to be completely open, it is a question how EU is going to interpret it. So by our rules, and by the European Union proposition, when you have a residence permit of one country, you can enter any other country and you can work in it.
Okay.
However, maybe in 2, 3 years or 5 years, they will say, okay, no, you can still do that even if you are in the EU. So basically, it's very hard to say, to give some exact prognosis, because things change and it depends on the geopolitical situation.